Based on what you learned from being a CIA spy and having to control your mindset, what can somebody do to like hack their brain to help them overcome hard things in life?
So here's something I recommend for most people. I mean, there's difference. Like, let's say you're the agency and there's a split second thing going on, and you don't have time to, you know, you have to act fast. But I think for most people, is here's how I work now, in civilian life, quote unquote. Because I've been at rock bottom. I've been in some very difficult places. I know that for about 2 to 3 days, I shouldn't make any major life decisions. I shouldn't make anything important. I know that in those first 2 to 3 days, I'm in basically, I call it almost a rational mode. So I'll give you a perfect example of a rational mode. Many, many years ago, I just started in business. Let's just say, without going into too many details, had a business partner do horrible things, steal a ton of money, almost bankrupt me personally. And so when that first happened and I lost everything, this is again, I know for like 2 to 3 days, I go into rational mode. I remember getting on Craigslist and I was looking at security guard jobs for like $8 an hour because I was like, well, everything's gone. What should I do now? And I was goofing around on the internet. And it's like, yeah, as a former CIA officer, good idea. Let's look on Craigslist for being a rent a cop at the mall for $8 an hour. And then after about 3 days, and again, give or take, some people take longer, some people take shorter. I'm like, okay, all right, that's enough. Time to flip the switch. Tomorrow morning when I wake up, we're getting back to business. And so how I look at things is, very like, hey, has somebody else been in this position? Have they come out of it? I'm not the only person in the world to lose everything financially. Have they bounced back? Yes. And you hear, of course, stories after stories of people who happened to. So a lot of my, it was kind of like when I went to the agency. I said, okay, other people have been in the agency, other people have made it, so if thousands of other people can do it, I can do it too. That's how I look at things. So it's not like, again, throwing a football. I'm never going to play in the NFL. I obviously there's certain things I'm never going to do. I'm never going to play in the NBA. I'm never going to dunk a basketball or any of that. But the vast majority of things anybody can do. And that's how I think about it. So I have my quote unquote morning or funk days. And then after that, I'm like, well, time to get back to business. I'm not the only person who's been here, and people dig themselves out of it. So let's get moving and shaking.
And speaking of bad days, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when they hit hard times is they start with bad habits. They start drinking excessively, they turn to drugs, they spend a lot of money, they gamble, trying to make quick money, they make irrational decisions. Like you talked about the importance of practicing the pause. Um, what is your advice for someone who's starting to go down that path to quickly like get themselves back on a straight and narrow so that they can destroy their bad habits?
I mean, I think it helps to be religious. I'm a very religious person. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I go to church every Sunday. I don't drink. I don't smoke. So when I'm in a very bad place or when I hit rock bottom, it obviously helps to know yourself. But I know, okay, this is what I'm going to do for 2 days. I'm going to think the world's going to end and I'm going to I'm going to think stupid thoughts of going and being a security guard. But I think everybody's going to have something where they want to quote unquote unwind and just make sure it's not too bad. Know thyself. So, for instance, me, I love working. I usually work 12 hours a day, but when I'm having those hard times, I may be like, you know what? Today, in the middle of the day, I'm gonna watch an hour of Netflix. That's my crazy out of this world thing because I just work nonstop. I mean, I literally go into the morning and I go, nonstop from call to call or from interview to whatever it is. I'm just never stopping. So I remember like my wife walked in one day to my office and I have a TV in my office and everything. She's like, "What's going on?" Like, why are you watching TV in the middle of the day? Is what it's like that kind of stuff. So that's what I do. That's my extreme getaway. Is hey, I just want to things are so bad. I need to reset. I need to go have my mind be mush for a minute and just watch some brain dead TV for an hour, and then I'm going to get back to work.
I'm sure, as you know, in your experience in the CIA, that sometimes, like when you know you're faced with stress, you get nothing but tunnel vision, and you're only focused on that one thing. And I think that can happen too with bad habits. And I think people can it can be really hard for people to kind of escape that trap. Um, any advice for people to like quickly like trick their brain to like get out of that rat race to just, stop and change course?
I mean, find some first. What I always tell people is like, listen, life is hard enough as it is. Don't go make those decisions which you know are going to make life harder. So don't go do the drugs. Don't go, drink a bunch. Don't go do whatever. Don't go cheat on your wife or whatever it might be if there's a problem, because life is already enough when you're not making decisions you know you shouldn't be making. And then I always say, what is your de-stressor, or what can flip the switch? So for me, I already mentioned one of them. It's Netflix. If I sit down, I'm like, hey, 30 minutes, I'm going to watch a show, or going for a walk. Going for a walk is a big one of mine. So find things that as soon as you're like, hey, I need to go watch pornography, or I need to go smoke a cigarette or whatever it might be. What is the other de-stressor of yours that isn't bad, basically? So going for the walk, or hey, I'm going to go walk around the mall and stare at gadgets or whatever. So there's got to be, I mean, all of us have temptations, all of us are human beings. So just figure out what isn't going to be a bad thing to help you and immediately resort to that. So if you're saying, hey, I want to go, again, I've never done drugs, but I want to go do some heroin. Instead, I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go fishing, or I'm going to go hiking, or something like that.
One of the things that really helped me in my transformation was envisioning myself being somebody different, like envisioning my future self being that person who didn't use drugs, who was fit, who was successful. Um, do you think there is a way for people to kind of manipulate the way they see themselves to be able to like create a new version of themselves that can help them, get out of ruts like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one, agency people are very good at compartmentalizing. So you can quickly switch tasks. You can quickly do X, Y, or Z. And I'm very good at compartmentalizing now. I mean, I can do this interview, and then I can go work on a big project with a client, and then I can go switch gears and work on a knife company I'm building. So it's a very, you get to compartmentalize, move to move to move to move to move. Um, but I think one of the things, and it's going to sound super, super corny, is hanging up pieces of paper of what you want. So the mental part is nobody wants to really hear about it. It's frou, it's dumb, and I totally get that. But guess what? When I was in when I went to the agency, and you go in with a class and you're going through it, it's all about mental toughness. Meaning, some guys failed who were much stronger than me, who were like former college football players, who were faster than me or whatever. It's all a mental game. When you're going through that training at the farm, and they make it hard. They obviously want to weed out the weak, just like the military boot camps want to weed out the weak. Well, it's all a mental test at the end of the day. Can you make it, or are you not going to make it? And so the mental stuff is important. So even like, I'm looking behind my desk right now, I've got several sayings up there that are kind of rah sayings, because I need that mental boost too, because all of us get down. So whatever you want to say, like, and again, sounds corny, but I have sayings every single day when I shower. I tell myself certain sayings in the shower. How great of a day it's going to be, how awesome a day, how productive of a day it's going to be. And what I've learned is, again, I used to think they were the world's stupidest thing, but I've been around so many successful people in life, doing consulting with them, well, also with the agency, outside of the agency, in the private security work, and the vast majority of people do it. So success leaves clues. It's like, hey, if all the successful people I know are saying this mindset stuff, if all the successful people I know are exercising, 5 days a week or whatever, then maybe I should do it too. And so that's how I look at things.
Right. And I think a lot of this also comes down to confidence. Like, how can you build confidence when you are feeling down about yourself, to have that belief that you're going to be able to not only get out of hard times, but to have the belief that you're going to continue to build whatever it is you want to build. What are some of the things that have helped you, like just build confidence, knowing that you put those pieces of paper on the wall and that you just believe that they're going to come true?
So one is, I'm fortunate that I have I'm laughing at a delusional level of self confidence that I don't know if I was born with it, but I've always been very confident. Like, for instance, when I was going to apply for the CIA, everybody's like, well, you're not going to get in. What do you waste your time for? You're not going to get in. I was like, why not me kind of thing, right? Like other people have done it, so I can do it too. Why not me? Um, and same thing, like when I was going to leave the agency to go start my own private security company, my own father was like, "You're the world's biggest idiot. You have a top secret security clearance. You're out of your ever loving mind. You're going to leave the CIA. You're not like a real, you're a businessman. You've worked for the government. You didn't go to like Harvard and get a business degree and all this." I was like, "Well, I love what I'm doing. I'm very passionate about it. Other people have started a business, so I can probably figure it out too. I'm not the world's smartest guy, but I'm also not an idiot." So a lot of that has been me just, again, I keep going back to other people have done it too. Like when I'm starting a new a knife company right as we speak, right? And so I'm passionate about lot knives. I'm making a really good high end, better knife that I'd put against any knife out there. And when I do that, obviously I look at other people out there and I say, well, all these other guys have started knife companies. And one, I guarantee they don't have the background I've had with knives and how I carried one at the CIA and the experience and how I've tested and what I know. So if they can do it, I can do it. So that's really how I look at self confidence. I mean, again, I'll tell you another dumb thing I want to do in my life is I want to own a donut shop. I just want to. It makes no sense. I get it.
Are you allowed to eat sugar as a Mormon?
Yes, I can
I'm
do that.
joking. I'm
Yes,
joking.
yes.
I'm
I love
joking.
donuts. I eat a lot of donuts. Um, and so I have an idea. It's a specific, donut branded shop kind of thing. And when I do that one day, if I do that one day, well, I'm going to think to myself, well, there's a lot of donut shops in this country, so if they can do it, I can, create a better kind of donut. And that's my overall philosophy on life.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things that confidence can really do is it can help you when you're in conversations with people, and it can help you kind of like charm them, get you to be very likable and stuff. What are some ways that people, when they meet people, whether it's personally or professionally, they can work on conversation skills to charm that person to become instantly liked or loved?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's super important. Um, I would say, and nobody's going to want to do what I'm about to say, but getting a sales job, go knock on doors. I've done that where you go knock on doors, excuse me, and you're selling something or you're selling something over the phone. I've sold tickets to a sports team that nobody wanted over the phone. That's hard sales, getting rejected 96 out of 100 times kind of thing. So that increases your confidence because you're like, I don't care if people reject me, right? And it transfers to all areas of your life. So I would do that if you've never done it because that's going to help. Otherwise, read the books. I've written several books myself. I also read books like crazy because you get this author who has spent years and years and thousands of hours gaining this information, and now they're distilling it to you. So I've read so many sales books back in the day, of course, like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a classic. Everybody should read that. And then just get out and do it. I mean, when I was single, I used to go out and I would go into a restaurant, whatever, and I just go start talking to the women. Now, sometimes I got rejected, sometimes I didn't, but that increases, you build a muscle basically. You're not afraid. And then, I had, again, women could sense that, and I don't want to, this is going to sound egotistical, but I did not have a very hard time attracting a female when I was there because I'd spoken to so many women and I was comfortable. So one of the wonderful things of the agency is it also teaches you how to get out of your comfort zone, how to. A friend of mine says, I'm trying to think exactly how he says it, is like, basically you're a chameleon. You can go talk to anybody. You can go be talking to an ambassador at a super fancy dinner, to a billionaire, to some terrorist dirtbag who's living on the street. It's like all that kind of stuff. So I would study sales books. I do sales if you want to, but just start talking to people. Here's something you're probably not going to believe. I'm an extreme introvert. Extreme introvert. If I was not married and didn't have kids, I'd be living in a shack in Alaska in the woods, and that would be awesome. So you can train yourself to do this because I'm an introvert by nature.
And what tips do you have for somebody to get out of their comfort zone that didn't go into the CIA?
Is so I'll give you, without going into details, it'll get me in trouble. The agency obviously trains its people to learn how to sell, to learn how to gain confidence. So again, without getting into anything I can't say, here's a hypothetical. There might be training where it says, hey, you are in this restaurant and you have 60 minutes to get an envelope from a woman named Sally. And if you do not get this envelope from Sally within 60 minutes, you're getting kicked out. And oh, by the way, you cannot walk up to people and say, hey, are you Sally? Hey, are you Sally? Hey, are you Sally? You have to get it without asking anybody their name. Well, how do you do that? As soon as they start the 60-minute clock or whatever, you immediately walk up and you say, pretty much every female name, hey, I'm Jason. I mean, obviously, you're not using your real name, but hey, I'm Jason. Nice to meet you. And of course, because it's set up, some people will be like, hey, I'm Katerina. Nice to meet you. Or some people are just like, oh, Jason, great to meet you. And again, it's a very stressful thing because you don't obviously don't want to get kicked out. You don't want to fail, but you've got to go around and find out every woman's name without asking her name and get very creative on that kind of stuff. Same thing is they might send you into a shopping mall, right? And say you have 15 minutes to get a phone number, a woman's phone number in a shopping mall, and she must be between the ages of 25 and 35. So you can't get out of that range. Well, guess what? Because you don't want to get kicked out, because you don't want to fail this, you are very motivated to go out and start just talking to women. And, by the way, hey, and you're allowed to, not saying you should do this in real life, but you're allowed to stretch the truth when you're doing these exercises. So you can walk up and say, hey, it's my 35th birthday. You look like you just turned 30. And the woman will hopefully say, no, I'm actually 31. And you're like, okay, she's in the range of 25 to 35. And then you can say, hey, you don't have to hit on her like creep, but hey, we're having a party. And by the way, I'm not hitting on you because I've got a girlfriend, but you should come. It's amazing. Like, what's your phone number? So you can, in these exercises, you can stretch the truth, but doing these kind of exercises, they throw you to the wolves, so to say, because they need to see that you can gather information quickly, that you can talk to anybody, again, from a 20-year-old woman to an 80-year-old man to a billionaire to a whatever it might be.
Do you have any tips for things people can do like every day to practice getting out of their comfort zone? Like whether like people, cold plunges, sauna, stuff like that have become widely popular now. Like what have you found to be effective for you, outside of like real life scenarios?
Yep. Is do it daily. Make a goal of one person daily. So there are many things I do in my life, no matter what. Like for instance, I'm a firearms guy. I love guns. I realize not everybody does, but every day I practice with my gun every single day. And it's called dry fire. There's no live ammo, but I practice that, right? Self-defense. I practice some self-defense every single day. Now, sometimes I may do it for 5 minutes, but every single day I'm doing it. So for people who want to do it, you say every single day, I'm going to talk to somebody new. I'm going to be in Starbucks and I'm going to see somebody reading a book. And I'm going to say, hey, is that the new? Find an excuse to talk to them. Or like, hey, how do you like your MacBook? I was thinking of getting a new one, right? Most human beings don't mind. Most human beings are friendly. So it's not like they're going to chew your head off in that scenario. It's not like you're going to go crazy. But if you said, no matter what, come hell or high water, I'm going to talk to one person and I'm going to do it 7 days a week, you'll get good. You'll have 365 tries. And the only way to get good is doing reps, repetition after repetition.
And regarding like conversation techniques to kind of get people to like you, I know sometimes you said you're an introvert. Sometimes people can be kind of socially awkward. So once they go out there and they meet that person, they might not know how to carry a conversation. They can come across as arrogant. They can come across as just super kind of timid and quiet, which can, again, rub somebody the wrong way. What types of things should people do in conversation to get people to build rapport with somebody, get somebody to like them?
Yep. Without giving, we don't have time for like a 2-hour master class in persuasion, But I can tell you that though the simple answer right here, flattery works. Now don't do it stupidly and over the top. Like guess what? Flattery works. Let me tell you a real quick story. When you're overseas, you're obviously casing buildings. You're looking for cameras and everything. And again, this is a hypothetical, of course. So let's say you're overseas and you get caught casing, right? Police come up to you and they're like, what the heck are you looking at the top of that building? And why are you looking at all these buildings? You say, oh my gosh, I love your country so much. It's beautiful. I love the architecture. I'm just a dumb American tourist, but this country is beautiful and I love the architecture. Oh, okay. All right. Get out of here. Right. I just flatter that police officer telling him how much we love his country. Okay. That works. And yes, that has been used. So you just have to be, again, not over the top, use common sense, but I've done it where I've been like, hey, I love your truck. That is some guys like, why the heck are you staring at my vehicle and casing things? Like, I love your truck. That is an awesome truck. I've been thinking of getting one. How do you like it? So you can do it naturally without going over the top, like just like, I love your coat. That's awesome. Where'd you get it? And so that can be an easy opening line because hopefully we're all wearing clothes. Somebody's all got a MacBook or a cell phone or they're carrying something, right? Me, I'm always in t-shirt and cargo pants, like always. That's how you're gonna find me. So somebody could spot and say like, "Hey, I love your cargo pants. What kind of brand is that?" That opens up the conversation. I just gave you one. So use flattery, like I love something about you, and that's like the world's easiest in that is almost it's foolproof.
So flattery combined with a question about the thing is what will keep the conversation going, right?
Correct. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. And then once as the conversation continues to evolve, how do you know if like whatever you're saying, like how do you know if it's working?
Well, I mean, it's body language. Again, it goes back to distance. Like are they creating distance? I mean, you got to watch all the body language stuff. So as I'm talking to them, are they, keep it, moving away from me where it's like, okay, I'm losing this. They don't want to talk to me. Are they giving me eye contact? Are they reaching in their pocket and playing with their phone? Are they sitting there texting or whatever? Like stuff that anybody can pick up on that tells like, yes, this is great or no, this isn't. But you need to make it entertaining and engaging. So I'll give you one from I'll go one from when I was single. For all the single guys out here, you're welcome. So at the time, I was in the Washington, D.C. area, and I was thinking of getting a houseboat for like the inner harbor in Baltimore, like just whatever boneheaded reason. But I was like obsessed with houseboats, okay? And so I'd look at them and I was like, yeah, I'm going to live on a houseboat, right? And when I say houseboat, let's not think like some big yacht or whatever, because I didn't have a ton of money. We're talking about like a little boat where no woman would probably actually be attracted to you and want to get on. But when I was single and I'd be out and I'd talk to like my girls who were friends about houseboats and they'd be like, that's so stupid. Like, don't get a houseboat. No, no. And so I'd go into a bar somewhere. I might be with a friend and I just walk into the woman and say, hey, ladies, let me ask you a quick question. And I would say, like, I'm thinking of buying a houseboat. Do you think that's awesome? Or do you think that's like serial killer-ish and I should not do it? Well, they liked that I was asking their opinion. It was a unique thing because, it's like, how many people are thinking about buying a houseboat? Probably not many. And so they'd be like, oh, some of their friends would be like, that's amazing. We love it. Or some would be like, no, I would never get on a houseboat. That's the dumbest thing. I would think you were a murderer. I'd never, and it was my in. And then I just kept asking questions, asking questions, asking questions. Because as human beings, we love giving our opinion. We love seeming like the expert. So one of the things back in the day I would always do is like if something's going on, even if I knew it, like, hey, I don't know much about, this, let's just say it's a gun thing. I don't know much about this gun. You know anything about it? I'm not an expert. You seem like an expert. Oh yeah, yeah. They want to talk about the thing or if you're trying to recruit somebody to spy on behalf of America, okay, you obviously do a lot of reconnaissance on them. You do a lot of surveillance. You find out everything about them, right? So it all goes back to sales 101. A friend of mine has a great saying, and she says, spies are the world's best salesmen. The only difference is you sell vacuums, we sell treason. So if I was trying to recruit you, Doug, I would stalk you like a crazy person. I would know everything about you. I would bump into you at one of the places you go and be like, we'd work out at the same gym. And then I'd bump into you at the coffee shop and be like, and of course, this is all planned. And be like, hey, aren't you the guy I saw at the gym today? And you'd be like, yeah, it was me. And I was like, what a coincidence. And then I'd be something, I know everything about you. Maybe you love sailing. I have no idea if you like sailing. But it'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go take some sailing lessons later. And then you'd be like, wait a minute, you like sailing? And be like, yeah, why? And it's like, sounds corny and dumb, but guess what? It works. You just have to know the person and find out what interests them. So we basically went, Doug, from like just getting to know people to recruiting and manipulating them.
I think obviously manipulation gets a bad rap given how horrible it can be and that like, people use it to do some really, really like horrific things. However, I mean, I do think like kind of what we're talking about here, what you're sharing, like in order to get somebody to kind of like you have to have them feel like that you understand them. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what we're getting at here is you understand what fuels them, what drives them. Like, you're not encouraging people to manipulate somebody to do anything bad. It's more like if you're trying to build rapport and a relationship with somebody, you have to understand like how to do that in a way where that other person feels like you care about them. Because if they don't, I think it's going to instantly turn them off and, they're not going to think that you're interested in doing anything.
Yeah, that's 100% right. I mean, like anything in life, you can use manipulation for good or for evil. So, I'm married. When I met my wife, what do we all do? We put our best foot forward. Like I was wearing a collared shirt. I wore a nice shirt, like that's manipulation because we want to put our best foot forward. I don't, like I said, you're going to find me in t-shirts 99% of the time, unless I'm on a suit on Sunday. So you can do it for good and bad. I mean, when I'm working with a client, I do a lot of consulting in the security world. And when a client comes to me and they want to pay me a large sum of money for a big contract and I love what they're doing, well, of course, I'm like researching them, I'm helping them, I'm doing everything because one, I like making money because I'm a human being, but two, I love their product and believe in it and want them to help them and make it super successful, whatever they're doing. So yes, that's I think one of the big things comes down to is human beings were inherently lazy, and of course, the beauty of the internet these days is you can do a tremendous amount of research. So sometimes people come to me and they're like, "Hey, Jason, I want to work with you, or I want to start a product with you, or I want to do whatever with you." And hey, I talked to somebody who, can I just send you a text message? Well, guess what? I've never sent a text message in my life. I use a flip phone, and I mentioned this before. So, and I mention it all the time. Like in books I've written, I've mentioned that I don't text message. In podcast, like I've mentioned. So clearly, someone who's like, "Hey, Jason, can I text you?" They have not done an iota amount of research. So you just got to do deep research on people. Like when I'm trying to do something and help somebody, I do a tremendous amount of research. It's hours upon hours. It's not hard to do because most of the time I don't even have to leave my office. But nobody wants to put in that effort, which is what separates, basically the winners from the losers.
Right. And speaking of laziness, I think a lot of times people they struggle with motivation. They struggle with kind of just sitting on the couch, not doing anything. Or I think like the overlooked theme of laziness is somebody that feels like they have potential to do something great, but they just can't get out of their own way. Right. Um, what are some things that you've used to help yourself overcome laziness when you're not feeling up to doing something?
So, I mean, we're all lazy. Like, I work out 5 days a week. It's good for me. I want to be in functional survival shape, but, I don't do it because I'm madly in love with exercising. So, what I just write down is, I've got a sheet of paper. I'm going to turn it where you can't see some things, but I've got a yellow legal pad here, right? I'm more old school, so I don't have like an online calendar. I don't do everything online. I like my yellow legal pad, and I will write, like, here's what's getting done today, no matter what. I'm exercising. I'm doing some self defense stuff. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And even though I don't like it, I do it. I probably, when people ask me, I say probably half of my day, I hate the stuff I'm doing. The other half I like. And people are like, "Oh my gosh, that's horrible." Well, guess what? I know many people who hate their lives and their jobs, and 99% of the day they hate, what they do. But I only hate it half the time. Like paying bills. Nobody likes paying bills. I don't like paying bills. Dealing with some government bureaucracy stuff. Obviously, hate that. So I think what it comes down to is write down what you need to get done, no matter what. Same thing with getting up early. Set the alarm, and when it goes out, just get up and get it done. Because I think I always play the long game in life, and I think that's important. So I'm always looking 10, 20, 30 years out. And if I don't work out in 10 years, probably not going to be that great. If I eat McDonald's for 3 meals a day for the next 10 years, not going to be that great. So even though I don't love working out, I do want to be healthy 10 years down the line. I do, like investing. I put a certain amount of money away every single month in investments, no matter what. Doesn't matter. Again, I'm like the tortoise and the hare. I was to say the hare. I'm the tortoise. I'm slow and steady wins the race. And so again, even though I don't absolutely love certain things, I just have it on my sheet that every single day, no matter what, because I know it's going to pay off playing the long game.
And what do you do during the days where you don't feel like doing the thing?
So it may get done later. Like, admittedly, some days I'm like, oh, I just don't feel like working out. Instead of working out first thing bright and early, I may work out at 2 in the afternoon or 3 or 4 or whatever. So yeah, I may push it off. But I also, people talk to themselves differently, right? Um, Men and women very much talk to themselves differently. So, women are in a gym working out, and the women are like, oh, you're doing wonderful. You're doing great. And men are like, you wimp, don't be the world's biggest. You suck. You can lift that, right? And so I will talk to myself that way, like, suck it up. Goodness gracious. You're not living in a third world country, digging ditches in 110-degree heat in like a North Korean prison camp. Like, you have to go to the gym and you have to lift some weight. Big friggin' deal. So I'll say that stuff to my thing. But also, I have some OCD. I have very mild OCD. And so that helps because if it doesn't get checked off my list, it drives me nuts, which is why I have my yellow legal pad right here again, and it's checked off like every single day. I'm scratching out with a marker of what gets done, and I will not go to bed if it's not done.
And so you've achieved a lot personally and professionally. And I think a lot of times what happens and what keeps people stuck is they don't know how to get from like 0 to 10, from 0 to 20, 0 to 30. And that keeps them kind of just like sitting on the couch watching TV because they don't know how to get started. Um, I'm a big fan of small wins, achieving things again, being the tortoise, not the hare over time. I know you are as well. But what are some of the other like methods you've used to consistently make progress in your life?
So when I'm doing something, for instance, I mentioned I'm launching a knife company right now. It'll probably be ready at the end or the beginning of next year. So January 2026 is when everything will probably be ready. But on my checklist that I do, the company's name is Spycraft Knives. I write Spycraft Knives one thing. Every single day, I do one thing just to make it going forward. That's talking about small wins. So the other day, I designed a brochure for it. The other day, I took some pictures of the prototypes. The other day, I ordered business cards, right? Things that take maybe 30 minutes, but it's compounding. So every single day, if I spend 30 minutes on the knife company, I know that we're going to be ready to launch in January 2026. So it's the old, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And that's what I always do is, and I again, that's the secret, which isn't really a secret, is people like, how do you get so much stuff done? Like my YouTube channel, I create YouTube videos. I spend 30 minutes a day planning a YouTube video. I spend 30 minutes a day on the knife business. I spend 30 minutes a day writing an article. So a lot of my day is just if I'm going to do this every single day, I do it every single day except Sundays. Well, then it compounds. So I started writing an article every single day in 2018. We've now been doing it 7 years. I've done it 6 days a week for 7 years since 2018, never missing a day. I was extremely sick with COVID. I've had hernia surgeries. I've had kidney stone surgeries. But no matter what, because I made it a goal that 6 days a week I'm going to do it, and I've been again incredibly sick. I have done it and not missed a single day. So it goes back to when I put something on my list to say I'm going to do it. It's like Jerry Seinfeld has that thing. He wrote a joke a day. He didn't want to ever break the chain. I don't ever want to break the chain. And that's how I'm able to accomplish something is just doing it 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. And I know it adds up.
At the agency, I'm sure there was times where you were faced with a lot of fear and stress that maybe kept you frozen for a bit, right? Because you're like, how do I respond? I don't want to make the wrong decision. Um, what are some ways that you think people can instantly reduce something like fear and stress when they're faced with a situation where it's like highly emotional and they don't know what to do?
One is training. Obviously, we train like crazy. So, I'll just use home invasions. If I ever had a home invasion, I've got guns somewhere, I've got knives somewhere, I've got an alarm system, I've trained, I know what to do. I don't have to sit there and freeze in my bed at 3 a.m. and say, holy crap, what am I going to do? No, I know exactly what my plan is going to be. So training is huge. It's just like pilots, they obviously train. Hey, if something goes wrong, if an engine goes out, what do you immediately do? They've trained so much that if that happens, they know what flipped. And I know nothing about being a pilot, but they know what switches to flip to do that. So training is the biggest thing because then you have to worry about it. The other big thing is if it's not like a life or death or crisis scenario, just to stop and be like, okay, has this happened to anybody else in the world? Like, am I the only person that has ever had their best friend cheat on them or screw them or whatever it might be, and not take any decisive action? So it changes from what I just said. So I don't. Let me explain why me. One is a crisis situation where you have to take action. One might be you just found out something horrible. You're sitting on your couch or in your office, and you don't have to immediately act. Well, then pause for a second and think, okay, what have other people experienced this? What have they done? Do I know anybody I can reach out to? Like, has my best friend, has my mom, has my dad, has a sibling? Who can I call that is not so, emotionally messed up right now where they have a more objective view and can help me? So, unless it's a life or death situation, pause for a second and don't take any crazy reaction that could be bad.
Yeah. But I think what happens is the ruminating thoughts take over and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if that happens?" And it's just hard to like, separate and compartmentalize that. Um, people now talk a lot about breath work. They talk about like just using your senses to kind of zone out from a stressful situation. Have you found anything you can do with like your body to be effective when you're faced with a stressful moment?
So, writing helps me. So, I like to write. So, I'll literally just take out a piece of paper and be like, first, I'll count my blessings. So, I'll be like, I live in the United States of America. I have food in my belly. I have a roof over my head. I've got clothes on my back. I'm not living in a war torn area. I can figure out how to make, and I just write down. It's like very therapeutic for me. I'm not the only one who's got whatever thoughts jump into your head. Just write them down, as stupid or goofy. And by the end, you'll be like, okay, yes, this is stressful. Yes, this is hard for me, but I'm not in the Ukraine right now getting bombed on by the Russians or whatever. Or I'm not in Somalia where horrible things are happening. So even though we're all justified because we all have problems, when you put it in your perspective, you're like, yeah, this is a pretty big problem, but look at all these blessings I have.
Yeah. And a lot of what we've been talking about throughout this conversation is just tips for people to get ahead in life and make sure that they're not falling behind and make sure they're not limiting themselves. Anything else you think people should focus on if they want to get ahead of 99% of the rest?
Work hard. Nobody wants to work these days. Like I work 12 hours a day. So, and again, I'm not digging ditches. I'm not like working in a lumber mill, lifting logs kind of thing. I'm either training people at our 320-acre spy ranch or I'm sitting in my office. So it's not the world's most physically demanding thing, but just get out there and work. If you start putting in the reps, I mentioned earlier, put in the reps, you'll get better. You'll learn. Again, when I love knives and whatever, but I was no, like a metal specialist and all the different steel, go down the rabbit holes. You will learn a tremendous amount. And we all know the story, the saying, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Well, most people don't work. Most people don't do the research. So you could become an expert on anything like gardening. If you said, hey, in 60 days, I want to be a gardening expert, well, just go down the rabbit hole, read all the best books, watch all the best YouTube videos, and you will learn a tremendous amount of knowledge and be head and shoulders above most people out there. That's the easiest thing is most people just don't want to. And I get that. We all want shortcuts, whatever, but the secret of success in life is hard work. There's not really any shortcuts.
Do you think work ethic is something that people were born with, or do you think it's something that has to be developed over time?
It's a great question. So it's funny you ask that. So my dad was born and raised on a farm. And growing up, we were not on a farm. He moved to the DC area, so I didn't grow up on a farm. But he was a property manager. And from the time I could lift a vacuum, I was vacuuming stairs, I was picking up trash, I was changing light bulbs. I was doing it like every weekend my Saturdays, I hated it. I hated it. And, I was mowing the lawn, doing mulch for this big complex. And it would have been, like I can't overemphasize one, how much I hated it. And you're like thinking, no, 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 it is that bad. Like it was like, all right, Jason, for the next 12 hours, you're vacuuming every single stairwell in this whole complex kind of thing. Um, I always joke that I was ready to take a match to the place. So I have an incredible work ethic. I work like crazy. I've been 12 hours for the last 20 plus years or whatever. And so my wife and I were talking about that. And is that because my dad did that to me, or did I just have it? I don't know. Um, but I think it does help to put kids to work. I mean, I've got 7 kids, and last night my kids are younger since I had kids after I left the CIA. My oldest is 1, or excuse me, my oldest is 12. My youngest is 1. But like every night before to go to bed, we are giving them the chores. And of course, my 3-year old is like, oh, it's like the end of the world. My 5-year old's like throwing himself on the couch. But it's like, you're doing the dishes, you're vacuuming, you're sweeping the floor, you're cleaning out the table. And, we make them do stuff and they hate it and they moan, probably like I did. I'm sure I moaned and wailed just like I did. But I think obviously you've got to make your kids work, and it helps. I think it also helps not to spoil them, because when I was doing that job, my dad paid me, I don't even want, like, here's $5 for the day, right? So I always had money. And when I wanted things, I had to use my own money. So I think it helps to make them have to work and also buy their own things and not give them everything, because then they value work and they're like, well, hey, if I want new tennis shoes, I need to go do this. So that's my long-winded answer. Hey, what do I know?
So what do you have your 3-year-old do?
So my 3-year old is just picking up the room. He ain't useful. He ain't doing much. So
Yeah.
we're like, hey, pick up your trucks and take him to your room. He's got his trucks, scattered all over the living room. So it's like, pick up your trucks, pick up your blanket, pick up your GI Joe, take him to the other room. And yes, that is a task in itself. So
Well, Jason, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming back on the podcast.
anytime, Doug, it's always great talking to you. I love it. So happy to help.
You got it, man.